inspired by my great-grandfather's generation. My great-grandfather was a man named Richie Etwaru. He lived 100 years ago in the year 2017. He was an employed servant, but he didn't really know it at the time. He lived in a very difficult time in the world. We look back at that year 2017 from our modern world and think, wow, how horrible. But at the time, most of his generation, they thought they were pretty okay. Our great-grandparents didn't realize that they were employed servants. They got up every morning, crack of dawn, and left for work, many leaving their children behind. They worked in a form of servitude called wage employment. Wage employment was where they would work for companies they didn't really own significant shares of. They rarely shared in profits, and they were being told what to do by their masters. Being an employed servant was bad, but definitely not the worst that they endured. As a society, they lied to each other systematically. They took their earnings as these employees and spent it on things that they didn't need. And this was because they had this strange thing called marketing. Now, marketing was when you were permitted to openly lie to each other about products and services, just to drum up the desire in each other to buy things they didn't need. Coupled together, these two abuses were bad. But what really inspires me about that generation is how they changed commerce and thereby freed themselves from their servitude. It was a vicious, never-ending, spiraling cycle that had to be fixed. They had investors, markets, operators, and they all shared data with each other. But the data that they shared with each other was really weird. Okay, get this. The data that they shared with each other didn't just come with a simple and easy algorithm to test whether or not it was authentic. So they had to go to these people called intermediaries. Now, intermediaries checked and verified the data to make sure it didn't contain any lies. These verifiers had to systematically check every aspect of commerce just to make sure that there were no lies or deception. I know, strange, right? They shared data with each other, and this always required another person to verify the data. And they did this in their product safety data, their accounting records, their inventory data, their shareholder annual statements, data around their reputations, everything. All data was completely full of lies, even their identities sometimes. And get this, I love this one. They had this thing called LinkedIn.com. LinkedIn.com was this place where you can go and lie about who you were and nobody needed to verify it. I think at one point my great-grandfather described this LinkedIn.com thing as the place on the internet with the most lies. People were not as free in 2017 as we know our species can be free here in 2117. People were employed servants, and part of this was done to them, but the other part they did to themselves. Luckily, they were the last generation of human servants. I do recognize this is dorky, but this is from where and whom I get my inspiration.